We are very honored. We are blessed to have Dr. D.C. Pandey, former outstanding scientist, Electronic and Radar Development Establishment, LRD, received his bachelor and master degree in electronics from Garhwal University, India, and PhD in applied physics from University of Allahabad in India in 1974, 1976, 1982, respectively. Presently, he is Dr. Raja Ramanna's Distinguished Fellow of DRDO. Since 1981 with LRD, Minister of Defense India, where he was involved in the design and development of electromagnetic interference control technique for ground-based airborne and shipborne equipments and systems. He had started research activity in the field of NEMP and HEMP in India. Besides, he was also involved in the electromagnetic design of various radar systems, combat aircraft, and other combat vehicle of the country. He was also involved in design and development and evaluation of various types of antennas for many radar programs of DRDO. He was awarded Certificate of Achievement by SUMA, Foundation of USA in 1989, Commendable Certificate IGMDP in 1990, M.N. Saha Memorial Award of IETE in 1994, EMC Engineer of the Year 1998, Lab Scientist of the Year 2003, National Science Day Award of 2004 by DRDO, DRDO Scientist of the Year Award 2005 by Prime Minister of India in 2006, DRDO Technology Group Award in 2011, Certificate of Achievement by the Chief of Naval Staff in 2014, and Professor S.N. Ghosh Award of IET in 2015. He has been elected to the grade of Fellow of HPEM Fellows Committee, SUMA Foundation of USA in 2016. The list goes on. There are some more awards which I could have read out, but I would like Ms. Dr. D.C. Pandey to come over and address this gathering. We are very keen to understand from you about EMP and its effects, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dominic, and it is a great pleasure for me to be here in this morning to address you the subject which is very close to my heart. I'm practicing this subject for last 40 years, so I thought that, okay, today I can share this one. So I will share my presentation. Once again, good morning to all of you, and that it is great pleasure for me to be there to discuss about this nuclear electromagnetic pulse resulting from the nuclear detonation, the protection of the data centers. And the thing that, okay, what I will be talking to you, because the subject may not be known to the lot of people, that, okay, what we discuss in our defense arena, but I will start with the very beginning of this particular subject. So whenever that, okay, nuclear detonation takes place from a surface burst or from any mid-altitude burst or from the exo-atmospheric burst, these are the products which comes out of the nuclear detonation. The first thing what we see is the light flash. Then we see the thermal radiation where the temperature is very high. Then we see the blast. Then we see the atmospheric disturbances. Then we see the fallout. And then there is one of the most important thing which is very concerned to the electronics people is the initial nuclear radiation, where the neutrons and gammas are the major thing. And these neutrons and gammas, when they result, it results into the two type of the effects to the electronics. One is called the transient radiation effects on the electronics, what we call the tree. And the second effect, which is the most devastating, is the electromagnetic pulse. So whenever I say that, okay, I will just give you a history that, okay, in 1962, when the US had an exo-atmospheric burst, a high altitude burst at the height of 400 kilometer above the ground. So then it was in the Johnson et al. So that this was about a 1.4 megaton. So this the thing that, okay, this was the report which came out of this one. The nuclear pulse that can paralyze a nation. It happened on July evening during an atomic test in 1962. A rocket lifted off from the Johnston atoll, a speck in the Pacific 800 miles southwest of Hawaii. At a point in space 248 miles above the Earth, the rocket turned into a ball of nuclear fire. All of a sudden, a greenish white light flash lit up all of Hawaii, recalled a witness. The sky started turning pink and orange and red. The heavens were filled with the ghastly light. Not just the heavens inspired of that evening, something so unexpected happened that today, after the 2 decades what they wrote that time in 83, 2 decades later, military planners still ponder its dark implication for the fighting of the nuclear war. A second or so after the flash, the Hawaii Islands were plagued by the problem with the things electrical. In widely separated part of the Oahu, 300 street lights winked out, their fuses blown, burglar alarms started ringing, and power lines went dead. Honolulu headlines the next day attributed the breakdown to a nuclear shockwave. So it means there was something which was happening, and this was reported by the Russians at that time, the USSR, and the similar events took place in the case of our and the UK was doing certain tests of this type of the nuclear detonation test. They have found that a lot of electronics is just getting damaged. So after that, this particular field became very classified and remained in the you know, it was not much of the literature. It came till the mid of the 80s. So now that, okay, when the detonation takes place, what comes first? The first thing comes the gamma radiations, and this gamma radiation interact with the environment, and that it comes the nuclear electromagnetic pulse. Then comes the neutrons, which is in the microsecond to millisecond time. Then comes the thermal radiation, which is in the millisecond to fraction of a second. And then comes the blast or shock wave. This is the time in which the thing comes. So what actually happens is that, okay, when the EMP generation, how this electromagnetic pulse gets generated, when that, okay, either fission or fusion is taking place, this nuclear energy is 4 into 10 to the power 12 joules per kiloton. Out of that, 0.1% of the energy goes in our prompt gammas, which are the immediate gamma radiation which is coming, which is about 4 into 10 to the power 9 joules per kiloton. And these Compton electrons, prompt gamma generates the Compton electrons, and these Compton electrons results into the asymmetry in the environment due to the electromagnetic field, which we call the electromagnetic pulse. It is about a 0.001% of the total nuclear detonation. It means 4 into 10 to the power 7 joule per kiloton is the energy in the electromagnetic pulse. So what happens, the type of the bus, what we classify in case of the nuclear detonation, we say that, okay, first bus is called the surface bus, which is about 0 to 2 kilometers. Then we say the mid-altitude bus, which is the 2 to 40 kilometers. Then we say the exo-atmospheric bus, which is more than the 40 kilometers. And then we have got the electromagnetic environment around the bus, that, okay, where that, okay, we have got the other particles, means that, okay, alpha, beta, gamma, nuclear radiation, gammas, and other things which are there, that particular region, and that is called the deposition region. And where that after the deposition region, we get only the electromagnetic field, and that particular region is called the radiation region. And so we are more concerned about this radiation region. And now the thing that, okay, I give you just a small mechanism of the how this EMP gets generated. See, that when the burst is taking place, gamma radiation which are coming, they are knocking down the air molecule and coming out these electrons called the Compton electrons. And this flow of these Compton electrons, there is a asymmetry between the Earth and the air. So this generates the electromagnetic field. In the case of mid-altitude bus, there's the air density which is varying, that generates the electromagnetic field. And in the case of exoatmospheric bus, it is the Earth's magnetic field in which the electrons are going to spiral around the thing, and they act as a phase array antenna, and the electromagnetic field keeps on radiating. In the case of the exoatmospheric burst, we call it is an EMP bomb. There's no other effects to the ground except the electromagnetic pulse. It means that somebody is radiating with the huge antenna from the space towards the ground, electromagnetic wave. There's no blast, there's no shock, there's no radiation, because everything gets absorbed by the atmosphere. So this particular one is the deposition region in the case of surface bus. This is the deposition region in the case of mid-altitude bus. This is the deposition region in the case of the exoatmospheric bus. The deposition region depends upon how high you are. So accordingly, the deposition region, so according the coverage goes higher. Now, okay, we have got the surface bus, we have got the electromagnetic pulse, which gets generated. It's a very fast rise time pulse, which is about the 50, around some tenths of nanosecond, with the duration of some microsecond time. And corresponding the very strong magnetic field, this is in the very close to the detonation. But when we go away from the detonation, then the field is something like exponential pulse, with some, positive portion of this. And there the field which is about at this particular place at the deposition is at 10,000 volts per meter. 10,000 volts per meter field is a very strong field, very strong field. Even in our radar, when we have got the very high power radar, we generate the field of, if we say at a kilometer of the distance, it is about say 500 to 400 volts per meter. So the energy of this type of the thing is very much concentrated in the lower frequency. In the case of surface bus, it is 90% energy up to the tens of kilohertz, and that energy density is about a 1 kilojoule per meter square. So this is in the case of the surface bus. Now you can see that, okay, if the burst is taking about say 1 megaton burst is taking, so that a field is going to fall. So at a distance of up to the 10 kilometer, at the distance of 2 kilometers from the bus, the field is as large as about 2 kilovolts per meter. And these are the very strong field per meter. And if the people, those who protect the electronic system, may be protecting the electronic system for 10 volts per meter, 20 volt per meter, and this is for the civilian one. In the case of our defense, we protect for 50 volts, 60 volts, and the 200 volt per meter field system. So that, okay, 2 kilowatt means a 2000 volt, and when the 20 volt is 100 times more than that. So this is the type of the field which will be get generated, so that there is a lot of electronics which are very susceptible to this type of the field get damaged. So the typical thing that, okay, if I see that, okay, the electromagnetic field at the tens of kilometer from the, a burst of say 10 kiloton can give me the 5 kilovolt per meter, 2 kilovolt per meter, around say 500 volt per meter at 100 kilometer off from that one. So one has to be very careful, and this particular field gets coupled to the systems accordingly. Then the magnetic field is equally very high. It is so much of the 13 amperes per meter, and at a distance of 100 meter, it will be about a 1.2 amperes per meter. So you can see that, okay, energy as far as about say 50 meters is 1.32 millijoule per meter square is our energy density. And if you see our electronic system, even if we say the microwave diode, which is in the front of the most of the receivers, is about say 10 to power minus 7 to 10 to power minus 4 joules of the energy which it can handle. So that, okay, then whenever that, okay, we have to plan of the system from the surface burst, it is the thing that, okay, we make a template. Template means we make the blast, we make the thermal, we make the transient radiation protection of the electronics. And the transient, that it is in the shelters or underground, or it is open, and then we say the EMP. So this is the synergetic effect for which the whole system is to be protected. So that, okay, if I am very close in the B1 region, which is the real blast, or say T1 region, where the temperature is as large as 10 to the power 5 degree Kelvin or something like that, nothing will survive in this particular place. So we plan that, okay, at what distance From the how far? Maybe a 500 meter onwards. So we start protecting that time that, okay, when we have to protect our facility, not from the blast, thermal, this tree, as well as that, our electromagnetic pulse, which is the electromagnetic effects. So it depends upon the thing that, okay, it is a ground zero or it is the height of the burst, then the deposition region keep on increasing, because when the fireball forms, when it is at the height. So now that, okay, coming to the exoatmospheric burst, which I was telling to you that, okay, it is due to the exoatmospheric burst. It is called the electromagnetic pulse. In this particular one, there is no other effects other than the electromagnetic field. And this particular field becomes a very high. It is a double exponential field. And its peak amplitude is as large as something 50,000 volts per meter. Is a 50,000 for 1 meter, and its rise time is about say few nanoseconds, about say 1.8 nanosecond. And its duration, half duration, is about say 25 nanosecond. Now you can think that, okay, which system will respond to protect this particular system? Of course, we have got the lightning is the natural resource which gets generated, but lightning is in the microseconds. It is in the microsecond. So microsecond, there's enough time from the nanosecond to minosecond is 1,000 times. So the devices to be protected, by the time they respond to that, the whole of this electromagnetic energy from the EMP goes to the electronics, and electronics get both functional damage or operationally upset. It can happen. So the energy in this particular one is the thing that, okay, what we have got is about say 10th of megahertz. And this particular one means that 10th of megahertz, and its frequency components is as about the 500 megahertz. So that anything which is in this particular band of the frequency will get coupled to that energy and will go to the electronic system. So that, okay, depending upon, because I will concentrate more on the high altitude electromagnetic pulse, because that is the most devastating effect without having any other effects or the nuclear effects. So suppose when the height of the burst is the thing that, okay, it is about the 100 meters, so that deposition region which forms is the different, is about say, this is the distance, about say 400 meters. So if it is that about 200 meters, it is forms around say 650 meters, and that is the height of burst is 300 kilometers. It is reaching about say 1,000 kilometers. So that, okay, you just see that, okay, on the top of that, the deposition region will be such a large, means that, okay, it is about the 1,200 kilometers. So then it means that there are that, that EMP which gets generated by these particular pulses. We have got nowadays 3 pulses, which is the IEC specifications. And in this one, the E1 pulse is the fastest pulse, is a very short pulse. Its rise time is 0.1, 0.8 nanosecond. To the 23 is the half magnitude and half, the full width. E2 is the pulse, something similar to the your lightning pulse. It is the rise time is in the microsecond to the millisecond. And that, okay, we have got the third pulse, E3 pulse, which is in the few seconds to the tens of seconds. And so that, okay, most devastating effects which can call to the electronics by this particular E1 pulse. Because see, that it is such a faster. E2 pulse, of course, we keep on taking the care from the lightning protection, lightning electromagnetic pulse, which is in the thing. And then the E3 is the under the effect, which is the critical infrastructure, particularly the power grids, is a very important. It is like the geomagnetic storms, and its energy is enormous energy in this particular pulse. And frequency wise, if you see, the E3 is in the hundreds of hertz, and E2 is about say a megahertz, and E1 comes about in the frequency domain, it comes about say, megahertz. So this is that complete, this is the synergetic of the all these one. E1 is from the Compton string, and the E2 pulse, which is from the scattered gammas and the neutrons, and MSD pulse is the E3 pulse, which is from the geomagnetic field, which is getting displaced by the hot plasma of the nuclear detonation, which generates this pulse. So now the coverage as I was telling that, okay, as the height of the bust, and you can say that, okay, how much radius it will cover, or say how much height area it will cover in the thing. So I have given you the figure that if I have a detonation over the Nagpur at a height of the 100 kilometers, a detonation of the 1 megaton of the weapon, which is the strategic weapons, it will be covering like this one. If I have the 200 kilometer, then the detonation can cover this much. If it is a 300 kilometer, it goes about covering the all, all the neighboring countries also. So this is the type of the thing. In this one, the no other effect is coming except that, okay, we have got the electromagnetic pulse which is coming. So that if in the case of surface bus about say kilometers distance, all the electronics which will be there, they will all burn, right? You can see that, okay, about say 400 meters, 500 meters if they are not protected. In the case of the exo-atmospheric bus, we have got the power lines, we have got the telephones line, we have got the radar system, we have got our communication system. All will get damaged by this particular field because such a strong field of the will be there. Then we have got that in the case of exo-atmospheric bus, again that, okay, our airborne system, aircrafts which are flying get affected. We have got the missiles which have got the, in the silos or whether they are there. Then we have got the different cables and the different wires, communication wires will get affected. And even the missiles which are on the path of that one, they will also get exploded. The electronics will get affected by this. Even the satellites which will get affected by the, which we call the system generated EMP, the gammas which are coming towards the earth, they will go up also. And they will hit directly to the satellites. And when they will hit directly to the satellite, then satellites, that there will be current will get induced, and these currents will generate the very strong fields, and that particular called the system generated EMP. So that is requires a different type of the protection for the satellites also. And even that, these missiles, which are the strategic missiles, which are kept in the silos, will get affected by that type of the field. You can see that, okay, this is about a 10 kilovolt per meter. The current is about, about a kiloamperes of the current which gets induced in this one. So one has to be very careful about protecting these systems. So just for some time, I did some calculation that what will be the probability of protection of these particular systems. So then, okay, it comes about that, the almost certain failure with this type of the thing if the electronics is not protected with the type of the protection which is required for these systems. Now, when we are talking about the, the protection scenario of this one, so we say that, okay, we don't do everything protection, then it becomes very expensive. We identify which are the vital systems in a system. Then we identify which are the essential systems. Then we say that, okay, these are the desirable, and there are may not be very essential in the for the mission critical system. For that one, sorry. Then we do that, grading accordingly. The system grading according to the mission critical, how critical that particular system is, right? How critical is particular system is. Then assign the priority among the critical subsystems. In that one, in the critical systems also, this particular system is there. Suppose, say, for example, an aircraft. We don't bother for our radar to get damaged. We don't bother for our EW system to get damaged. We say that, okay, electronic control system of the engines should not get affected. Ground to air communication systems should not get affected. We have to bring the pilot back, because to make a pilot, it takes 24 years minimum to make a pilot. So that you cannot afford to, that lose the pilot with this type of the activities. So that these are called critical systems, safety critical system are the first priority in the airborne systems. Right. So similarly for our communication, the communication system or the radar system, which are the ballistic missile defense system, and just putting from the defense point of view, I will come afterwards sometime that civilian point of view. Identify all mission critical input and output circuit containing unprotected sensitive components. So they have to be protected. Determine damage upset threshold sensitive components. Okay, so this is the thing. Now that the protection scheme, again, it comes that, okay, we have the non-threat when we are not expecting that, okay, nuclear detonation will not take place just like that. So we have to see that, okay, what are the protection we provide in this type of the system, non-threat place, how they are being protected. Then the pre-threat, when there is a, red book gets open, yes, there is a threat is going to come, then how you are going to do it, you arm yourself, then the threat, and the after threat, that what is the post-threat, I mean that, okay, how you have to protect your system, what the way that suppose there is some communication has gone down, what is the redundancy in that type of the thing has to be seen. So how that, okay, when we are looking into the design point of view, that, okay, how do you do? First, the thing that, okay, we do the design analysis. As I told you that, okay, what are the electromagnetic characteristics of the particular system of these weapons, whether it's a surface bus, mid-altitude bus, or exo-atmospheric bus. Once we do the know the field labels, when we do the design analysis, and once we do the design analysis, we say how much field has been got put into those systems in terms of the open circuit voltage and short circuit current. And from there, then we start incorporating the protection. What the type of protection to be done, whether it's a non-linear amplitude limiting protection or the frequency limiting protection. Once the protection has been done on that particular facility, then it is to be done. EMP is to be simulated, and it is to be tested by the simulated environment, and to see that, okay, whether they are complying with the requirements. Then the hardness assurance testing. And that when we do the protection, it starts from the design. You can't do that, okay, retrofit in this type of the protection. What the thing that, okay, you start component label, you do the circuit label, you do the equipment label, you do the subsystem label, and then you do the system label. So it goes from the bottom to up, right from the design stage, component selection, to the circuit design, to equipment design, subsystem design, to system design. So the different incorporation has to be done. So when we do at the component level, we make the less sensitive components. I won't go very detailed into that, but circuit labels is the terminal protection devices. We call the TPDs. TPDs are the linear and the non-linear protection devices. Then we design the circuit, which we do all in the EMI EMC design. The same thing is being done in the case of the nuclear electromagnetic pulses. Then we do the circumvention. Of course, the circumvention is not applicable to the EMP. Circumvention is the process by which you sense the event and then switch off your system so that it becomes the more hard. But in the case of the nuclear detonation, EMP is the first thing which comes to reach to the system. Then we have got the equipment, subsystem and system label. We do the zoning, electromagnetic zoning. We do the clustering of the system, layering. Then we do the different cable layout, their configuration, their impedance control, their different type of the shielding. There's a, that super screen cable, their transfer impedance is to be minimum 0.001 milliohm per meter type of the thing. Then the shielding has to be done. Shielding integrity is to be maintained by the gaskets, by the, finger shapes with the honeycomb filters. Then we have to do the grounding schemes. And the different type of the thing, there are the crowfoot grounding, the fishbone grounding is there's this, that distributed ground scheme. Then we have got the damping. Damping means that, okay, because the pulse which is going to get that one, so the electromagnetic energy has to be get damped by the electromagnetic absorbing materials. Now coming to the critical infrastructure of the country. It is the thing that, okay, everywhere that, okay, you say the electrical power system, telecommunication system, banking and finance, petroleum and natural gas, transportation, food, water, emergency services, space, government, and defense. These are the critical infrastructure. This whole electrical power grid of the country is being controlled by the computer. I mean the SCADA. right? Is control. There's nothing to do with the bigger transformer. Is control. Your whole that okay, you are generating megawatts of the power of the solar system. That is there's a SCADA that which is controlling everything of that one and that particular one. And these things are all interrelated with each other. Electrical power system defense is related. If the electrical power system is not there, that okay, how we will work? If the electrical power system related to the pumping system of the water, it is for the emergency system, it is for the medical systems. So interdependence of various infrastructure facilities. Now this is the SCADA, is a supervisory control and data acquisition system. And this has really revolutionized the industry. Today is the thing everywhere, all electronic. They are the, whether it is the microcontroller or whether it's the embedded systems, all are the small electronic system which is controlling the whole grid, whole system, whole banking system, whole finance system, whole medical system. Everything is being done. And in this particular SCADA, there we have got the digital control system, is the very critical element. And then we have got the programmable logical controllers. That all logical and other thing which has been done. And these are the small electronics which is inside that particular system or inside this one. And that is so vulnerable to this. So all electronic control system that may be used for the data acquisition and control over large and geographical distributed infrastructure systems. Their application is the electrical transmission, distribution, communication, water management, everywhere. This SCADA is everywhere. I see that, okay, this SCADA, I will keep on going to the so many places, keep on seeing that, okay, the type of these circuits, right? This will be their master control unit, from this will be the individual unit, which is connected from the different sensors, relays, pumps, or so many. Now there are so many other IoT things will be coming. So that all the things will be coming to the RTU. From there, it will be the communication link, or is it a LAN, or it's a fiber, it's a microwave link. It comes to the control center. If these particular place, if this thing get damaged, the whole thing is gone. And this type of the wiring and other thing in the SCADA architecture is a small microcontroller or microprocessor or type of the device will be there. And this is the actuator, you know, a type of the thing. You can just see that, okay, this is the most of the thing, you know, civilian side. We have all the liberty that, okay, this is the way that, okay, all the thing has been connected like that. And these are the cables which picks up this all energy. And this particular energy which is being picked up, and they can damage the things. A small energy can damage the whole the thing. It can, you know, operationally upset it. Like logic can upset, or it can malfunction, or it can burn the thing. So one has to be very careful about this particular one. And then we have got that other thing that, okay, what we do that, okay, protection of that one, we take that, okay, how lengthy is the cable, what is the long, then we calculate what the type of the field gets induced on that one, then what the type of protection is to be done on this particular cable. If it is fiber, it's fine. But this particular portion after the fiber, that, okay, inside there is electronic, there are the PCB traces, there are the some connecting cables and other things. They will pick up these fields which are such a strong field which may damage the system. So now that, okay, I will come to some solutions of this particular one. So when we are talking about the solution, this is the one of the impervious shield. If I can make, this is the idealistic case. Nothing can go inside this, or nothing can come outside of it, right? But in practice, I will not have a system like this. I will not have impervious shield. I will have a system like that. In this particular building or in this particular facility, there will be the power line will be coming. There is the communication, there is the control cable, there is the antennas, there is the doors will be there, there is the windows will be there, and that is, you know, different thing from power is going from one system to other system and all this one. Now, suppose we have got the system like this, and it is this type of thing. How we protect this particular system? Then we have got the two type of the solution. With one we call the system level protection. In this one, what we do that, okay, we make this particular is the electromagnetic shielded enclosure, or say like topological electromagnetic shielded. Topologically, I mean that, okay, where the openings are there, where from these cables are entering, we provide the protection on this particular place. Rest of the place, it is shielded, right? So this is the system level. These are the terminal protection devices. And then that, okay, at the doors and the windows and other thing, windows means that we make the waveguide below cutoff filters. So this is the type of the thing. So that in this one, again, the secondary level protection we provide at the equipment level. Still, okay, some field can get leak inside that one. That is provided at this equipment level or in the different places. Second one is the thing when the systems are very distributed. In the case of this, most of the systems are distributed. They are not inside a building. They are distributed from here to there. In that case, we do the distributed type of a protection. What we say that, okay, we make the volt here, so the power which is coming, we have the filters here. From there, we run the shielded cables or fiber cables, depending upon the situation. So this has been the distributed type of the protection or topology which has been done. Even that, okay, we don't treat in the case of, because every doors and every surface cannot be treated. We leave it at that one. So we identify which is the place in this room. This is my place where the computer is there, where my system is there. So then we start protecting it. I will show you that, okay, suppose this is a communication facility. This is a communication facility. I have got that, long power head lines. I have got the telephones line. I have got the underground cables which are coming to that. I have got certain antennas, and I have got the ventilation panels. I have got the, some opening ducts and other thing. So in this particular one, that, okay, what the way that we have to provide the protection. It means that, okay, if it is a shielded enclosure, if the shelters there, is a shielded enclosure there, then what we do that, okay, we provide from all these cables, which is going, we provide a terminal protection device for these cables. We provide the EMP filters, or EMP filters mean these are the both non-linear and linear filters. Then we provide the honeycomb filters for the ventilation. Then we provide the doors for the with the finger strips, with the shielded EMI gaskets and other type of the. So this is the way that, okay, done. So I give you an example that, okay, when I was working over the integrated fire control system, is the underground facility where that, okay, that we have the metallic which is buried under the 3 meter down, and this is the whole facility which was there. So then in this particular one, what we did that, okay, hold the facility hardening for the EMP is not possible. Of course, the earth also gives some of the protection. So if you see this particular one, then how that earth will be protected, some metallic things which are there. So we identified the place. What we did, okay, this is that we did the electromagnetic zoning. This particular zone is called the earth surface. This is called the, shelter metallic structure. Then it is called the equipment rack. So what we found that, okay, which are the penetration which are going where this all electronics. I brought those all electronics at the one place. I mean that what we call as the bringing them, identifying and the clustering them at one place. And then in this particular place, we made that one is the most shielded one, and then provided the each place the protection. I just wanted to tell you that, okay, this is the way that, okay, where that all our data acquisition system, where our communication system, all the thing which was going from that one. So we identify that, and so we concentrated only on that one, because see, I'm not bothered where the power, what is happening to the light and other things. We are more important that, okay, this electronic system which is controlling the whole thing, and the whole NBC protection and all the nuclear, biological, chemical protection and all that type of the thing, which is controlled from here. So we provided that first the thing that, okay, we identified telephone lines and the communication lines. Then we found the control lines, then the power lines and the communication antennas and feed gear. In this case that, okay, in the telephone lines, the filters which is entering inside the facility, this is that is the WD cables and other thing. Though we provided, these are the transient protection, which is called the gas arresters with the varistors type of the thing. Then we have got the some type of the ferrites, which was that because when the clamping takes some resonance take, then we have the common mode rejection filters. we have got the slightly faster device. These are slightly slower device. These are the faster device, which we call the turn jobs. The type of the things has been protected, and this is the type of the thing which is made. But of course, these are the very we have made this one that with the industry is making that one in the very small, maybe about say a small box can be made about the 4 lines, 5, 6 line type of the cables. And we have the power lines. Power lines also has got the thing that okay, we after the circuit breaker, we put these filters because circuit breaker won't be able to respond to that one. Circuit breaker will be responding in the millisecond of the time, but the pulse which I told you that it comes in the nanosecond. So that we have to provide the protection by that very fast devices. These gas arresters, which are there, GD tube and other thing, they are filled with the radioactive material so they can respond faster. Because for the GD tube which are available, one has to be careful. Those are being used for the lightning are different because they are a microsecond, but it is in the nanosecond. So it has to be accordingly. Then we have got the other EMI EMC filter with the feed through with the common mode rejection filters. So these are the filters. Then we have got that, coaxial line that, okay, antenna is the one of the most important thing, but these antennas are that, has got the impedance of the 50 ohm or 75 ohm, so that, okay, one has to be careful about protecting. These are the gas arresters which are being full so that it doesn't affect the impedance of that. So these are the type of the protection which is being in the that our antennas and the coaxial cables. So now that, okay, if the facility is not the shielded one and other thing, then in that case, if it is the RCC facility, what we do that one, we have got a generator, which is the most important thing. Is electronics is very susceptible to that. Okay, we harden this generator for the electromagnetic pulse. And the second one is the thing where that, okay, our all communication, wherever SCADA, wherever all this electronics is lying, we bring them to at the one place. And this particular one, we as a make a shielded enclosure where all the facilities will be kept in this one, right? So it will be the whole metallic enclosure with the filters, EMP filters, with the honeycomb filters, everything will be inside there. So that, okay, you can concentrate more on in this protection. With this particular one, I will be saying that, okay, there are for the defense, we have got these are the 3 specifications which we follow. Milli Standard 461, we have got the EFG, we have got this test thing, and the Milli Standard 464C, that is the system level specification, and Milli Standard 25. 1 and 2 are the thing which are for the strategic C4I facilities, right? Which are strategic C4I facilities. These are the specifications which follow, and we have established these are the facilities for our system testing, for our strategic defense system. So this is that, one of the tests which we call we generate the 50,000 volt per meter field and other thing, and the type of the system which is to be protected. And then we have got the other one is these are called the conducted the direct transients we inject inside the system. And this is this type of the waveforms we have got. Then the facility movement we have got at LRD, we have got in RCI Hyderabad, we have got the VRD Ahmednagar, we have got the Army Center for Electromagnetics, MAU, we have got the Bell Bangalore, we have got the Tata Power has got this facility. Samir Vizag has got the one of the biggest facility where we can put the article as large as 19 meter or a Agni type of the missile can be put inside. Then we have got the CS114 test, 116, what we call the EMP. We have got in all the LRD, AD, these are the DRDO labs where these facilities are there. Indian Air Force has got, Army Center for, and Naval EMC Center has got, Samir, all the 3 centers of Samir has got, Tata Power also has got, and even Wipro has got this particular facility. And there are these are the military point of view, but the civilian point of view, these are the new specifications has come. They are the thing IC. So now the thing that, okay, after some time that, okay, critical infrastructure of the country has to meet these requirements to survive. At the moment, we do the EFT testing, we do the dam sinusoid testing, we do the different type of the transient testing, but this characteristic of the EMP, which is about the E1, E2, and E3 pulse, will be now that has come as the specification. These are the different specifications which are available. And that is that are available in the IEC. I think the Gopakumar may be having that, and IEEE EMC Society is also doing that. Okay, its technical committee 5 is doing the high power electromagnetic specification generation, because see that okay, this is the thing. It is not also the EMP. Now EMP we bring into it in the high power electromagnetics, and high power electromagnetics. When we talk about the thing, we talk about the NEMP. We talk about lightning EMP, we talk about the high power microwave, we talk about the P static, we talk about the ESD, then we talk about the intentional electromagnetic interference, which can be generated to create the problem, becoming the very important field in the case of electronics. So there are certain facilities. This is the ARIS facility, which is for the missile testing. It was made in the late 60s and 70s. Then this was a trestle, which was in the biggest facility, which is in the EMP field, which is there. It is about a 500-meter long facility which generates 5 million volts of the pulse in that one, and the system being tested. Then we have got the other one is this is called the dipole EMP test facility, where we generate the electromagnetic pulse of E1. Then we have got the IMPRESS for the ship testing. And then we have got, this is the hybrid EMP simulator, because this has come the most important simulator. It generates whole the pulse, and it is a radiating EMP simulator. Then we have got, this is the other hybrid EMP simulator of the France, where that, okay, this is the simulator and this is the aircraft which is being tested. I mean that I recently had some discussion. They say that, okay, they have done initially that Rafale also being tested in such facilities. Then we have got the Sweden, that, okay, this is the other type of this particular facility, that is the aircraft being tested. We made this particular facility is the bounded EMP simulator at our LRD in beginning of 90s. Then we have got the indoor facilities. As I was telling, this is the one of the mission computer of the Tejas aircraft being evaluated for in this particular facilities. And this is a direct injection facility.